Two thrilling finishes to cap off the opening stretch of the second round of the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series take us to the Finger Lake region of New York State and Watkins Glen International. A racetrack unlike any other on the schedule, these drivers seeking a slot in the Contender Series are now forced to be challenged with a road course for the first and only time. These drivers will have to turn left and right, which will play into the hands of some drivers, but to the chagrin of others. Glad to have you along for the ride, everybody, and welcome to Podium Esports live coverage of race number 3 of the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing Series season. I'm Jacob Hitz, the voice of Podium 2, alongside Nick Olson, Kevin McAdams. We got Taylor Burris down on pit road for us tonight, and Zach Johnson, our producer for tonight, as always, with Eric Messer, our social media guru. Kevin, we'll start with you. We're at a road course, no cautions, so they could all wad up in turn one, and we could have 3 guys make it out alive, and they'd go on to win the thing.
Yeah, it's something I was talking about with a couple guys earlier. I was talking to Michael Frisch and Blake McCandless, and they know that this is basically a sprint race, and they were both talking to me. The setups for tonight, the tires are really cold going through the S's in particular on lap 1. And we may see a very, very horrendous wreck on lap 1. And if that happens, you know, this, like you said, no caution. So if you end up starting 20th and you have to slow down for a big wreck, you may lose all track position from the get-go. So it's going to be really interesting to see where people start, and we'll see if they can survive through lap 1.
David Schildhouse had quite a view in a B-class race with the Xfinity cars over in the S's earlier on today. Not sure if anybody saw that on Twitter or not, but that may be kind of the crystal ball of what we see tonight. Nick, it's a quick race, only 35 laps, and we don't have any cautions. Strategy is going to be a big part of it to see who can try and make it to the end. But you also don't have that insurance where if you make a mistake early on, you'll have that caution to bunch everybody back up. After the first couple laps, everybody's going to be strung out, and you're pretty much going to be where you're going to be at the end of this deal, barring any other issues.
Yeah, I mean, very short race, 35 laps. You don't have much time to get it done. Pit window is going to be very narrow as well. If you pit too late, you're not going to have enough time to capitalize on new tires. Everything about this race is different, contrary to what we might see somewhere else. With the pit boxes on the opposite side of the racetrack, down to that, it's going to be really interesting to see how these guys play their strategy, among other things, and most importantly, get through that first lap.
Forgot about the pit boxes. The only convenient thing, though, is the fact that, well, the pit crew is AI. It's automatic, so you don't have to worry too much about them having to relearn how to change tires on these trucks. Let's take a look at the Google Earth and figure out where in the world we are. We were in Homestead, Miami just 2 weeks ago. There you see Donovan Strauss, Briar LaPrade winning the 2 splits, and now we get to go from one end of the East Coast all the way up the coast to New York and to Watkins Glen International. Technically 7 turns. It's got the boot that could make it up to 11 turns. The inner loop there always tricky. The S's very fast, and that's where we've seen a lot of those big wrecks that have happened in the past. That's kind of been the spot where they all log jam together.
Yeah. Sorry, Nick. This is probably one of the fastest road courses in the country. It's a very sweeping, very high banked road course, and we're going to see a lot of high-speed action, and something we saw in the Coke series as well, something that at least they were talking about. There was a lot of aero deficiency behind someone else, the dreaded dirty air that we hear about in real life even. So track position going to be very important tonight, and it's going to be an exciting race going forward.
Yeah, definitely. Just echoing that, having run the C fixed so much this week, when you're behind someone, it's easy to catch someone, but being able to make that pass and make that move in many spots where it's a 1-lane racetrack is really difficult. I'd always say race the track and not the driver, because if you're fixated on racing a driver, for example, going into the bus stop, you could totally miss that braking point, and by the time you realize that you're both off and into the barriers. So you just got to pay attention to where you're at. Very technical racetrack, very, very tight corners, and also high speed, which means there's a lot more of a chance you could hit something a lot harder than if we were going slower.
Now, because this racetrack is one of the older skins on iRacing, some of the off-track locations aren't as accurate. For goodness sake, it's still the sprint bridge on the front straightaway coming out of turn number 7. That's how old this scan is. There's grass in places where it's been pavement for the last couple of years. There are some gravel traps that exist that aren't there anymore. It's going to be very difficult for some of these guys to get used to. They're used to watching. They're being pavement in this spot. They overshoot a corner, and all of a sudden they've got an off track and they got to hang on for dear life. That's going to be difficult for these guys.
Yeah, and I mean, one place for sure as we see the sprint logo. That's hilarious. Thanks, Zach. Turn 9, for example, I guess it ends up being turn 4 or 5. The carousel, especially when you go to the, we'll see the run this weekend at Watkins Glen. They're going to go very wide, almost outside the limits. F1 fans will hate seeing that, but here you don't have that extra runoff, and that's a really, really treacherous place. Especially, it's a very high speed corner, and it's something these guys are going to have to mind, especially when they're behind somebody. If they're side by side through that as well, you may be forced off, and then it narrows up really quickly down that straightaway, and there's a lot of guardrail here, and unfortunately they might end up stuck in the guardrail. Well, hopefully not, but it's going to be exciting tonight for sure.
Yeah, definitely the exit of the carousel and then coming into turn 7 seem to be those two areas, and out of turn 6 as well. Those last two corners seem to be the areas where that grass can really bite you. Even if you just drop a tire in it, you could go spinning, you can go sliding off into the gravel, and hopefully you don't hit anything once you're in there. But very technical stuff going on here, and we'll see how it plays out. A lot of talented drivers in this field.
Just have to wait and see. Qualifying is done, so we can now go through our starting grid. Here, as we only have 32 trucks here in this race. Only 65 drivers registered for the session. We'll have our pit road reporter, Taylor Burris, kind of sort through who's here, who's not. We'll get that to you later on. But these guys got to make it a full lap around the racetrack here under pacing. So we've got a long way to go. On the pole for us, it is Kyle Peddle. In the 21 machine, he has Dylan Alt to his outside. Tucker Minter, Brian Mercurio make up row number 2. Jordy Lopez Jr. and Omar Diallo in row 3. Parker Retzlaff and Caden Honeycutt in 8th and 9th. 7th and 8th. I can't read. 9th is Honeycutt. 10th is Agnell Phillip. Yes. All right. Somebody else. Take it away.
Michael Cozy Jr. will be rolling off in the 11th position. Daniel Eberhardt in 12th. Michael P. Frisch will be starting in 13th position tonight. 14th will be Kenny Brady. Liam Brotherton looking to have a good night tonight. He will be rolling off in 15th. Nick Shelton in 16th. Seth DeMerchant will be rolling off in 17th tonight. Connor Horn 18th. Corey Carpenter in 19th, and Christian Peterson. We saw him have a really good run at Knoxville, looking to do the same again tonight at the second wildcard event of the year.
In 21st, we got a former Coke driver, Michael Gariglia. 22nd, we got Nate Stewart. Chris Overland in 23rd, with Dylan C. Jones in 24th. In 25th, we have Tanner Love in 25th, with Garrison Hogan in 26th. Followed by Patrick Moose in 27th, Ryan Hill 28th, Derek Fulton 29th, and Jeremy Davis rounds out your top 30.
And at the back of the grid, it's Seth Noel and Frank DeAngelis. Those are the two that round out the field. And we got to go all the way around this just under 2.5 mile racetrack behind the pace car before we see the green flag and get things rolling here from Watkins Glen.
Yeah, and through this whole pace lap, you're just thinking about turn 1. It's almost staring you in the soul. Who's going to make the move? Who's going to take me 3 wide? Who's going to make a move? Because this is the best opportunity you're going to have to pick up track position in this entire race. We could talk about pit strategy all we want, but this is the entire field bunched together right in front of you. You're going to see somebody try and make a move. It's just whether they can make it without making contact with another driver.
For sure, and it's... With this side-by-side, I mean, I think this is the most treacherous part of the race, and something we talked about right before we went live. Some of these guys were 100% favoring the short run, knowing that track position meant so much. So we'll see guys that, may be in the 20s or 30s. They might, their race may be already over, but they ended up with the long run speed. We may see them crawl into the top 10 very late in this event.
Let's take a look at the weather here in Watkins Glen. I'd imagine pretty good. Of course, I can't read it from exactly where I'm at. Here we go. Weather right now, let's see. 80 degrees, air temperature, track temp 110. This track is slick with the sun beating down on it. Wind speed right around 7 miles an hour or so. As we are coming around through to turn 6 right now. And very shortly, we'll get the green flag to get this thing going.
If it wasn't scary enough that you're racing all these other cars and such trucks in such close proximity, that track temperature is enough to really, really, really scare you. So I'm hoping these drivers might not have taken a look at that. That's another element you're going to have in your mind here going into turn 1.
Pace car comes off of turn number 7 and is going to head to pit road. Dylan Alt and Kyle Peddle are on the gas. Green flag. We are racing at Watkins Glen. Race number 3 of round 2 of the eNASCAR Pro Qualifying iRacing Series is underway. Here we go off into turn number 1. They're fanning out big time in the back of the field. Couple trucks blinking around. They make it out of turn number 1 with no incident. Kyle Peddle breaks away by 2-3 truck lengths. Dylan Alt holding down the fort in second with Tucker Minter in second as they continue to climb up the hill, head towards turn number 4 and the chicane for the first time. Everybody getting single file, and my goodness, they made it.
Don't got your Dickens yet. Let's get into this bus stop.
Breath of fresh air, I think, for these guys to see some clean racetrack in front of them, even by a couple truck lengths. First 5 or 6 trucks finally starting to get some clean air, and these guys are battling for it through the carousel. Cozy Jr. getting knocked off the carousel outside line, and here comes on the to his right side, here comes Daniel Overhart. I believe that's for 12th position.
Trouble coming off the corner. Seth Noel is around. No, it's not Noel. Who is that? Michael Guerrilla coming off of turn number 5. He was facing the wrong way. Tell you what, he gets loose and goes head on into the tire barriers. A la Sam Hornish. Thankfully, he doesn't go back into oncoming traffic, but a big crash for Michael Guerrilla. Just lost it all by himself and took a hard shot into the tires, so he's going to be at the back of the grid. 1 lap is complete. Everybody else has made it thus far as the field's back through 1 and 2.
I tell you, in most road courses, that much damage might not be as big of a problem, but here it's so high speed, especially up through these S's into the bus stop and on that front straightaway, that damage is going to be really tough for Michael to overcome here, as we do see some side-by-side there in the S's. Nick Shelton in there. That is really tough to do.
Coming down the back straightaway, here is the battle. And Agnell Phillip is back here with Shelton. Phillip will take the spot away as they get into the chicane for the second time. Everybody looking pretty good. It's just single file conga line around the racetrack right now. And this is pretty much what we thought we would see after the first couple laps. Everybody gets strung out, and then it becomes really difficult to make any passes.
For sure, and I think at this point you really just end up racing the racetrack. You know, you have your pace, you know what you can run. You ran probably hundreds of laps, dozens of runs, and you probably ran between 15 laps and a full tank of fuel. So these guys know what they have. It's just about minimizing the mistakes, and I think that with Noel, we see how easy it is to make an error very early in this race. But right now, like you mentioned, single file for the most part. First battle for position, pretty much in the back of the field. Patrick Moose and Nate Stewart battling for 22nd.
Yeah, it's a battle way up there. Dylan Alt is trying the best he can to close in on the leader, Kyle Peddle. They come off of 4 and head down towards the bus stop chicane. He's about a truck length and a half back on Peddle. It's certainly close, but not close enough for him to really make a move yet. And it's pretty early to try and send something up the inside and hope it works.
Man, absolutely. And we're seeing guys going into the bus stop. Patrick Moose has got some pretty bad rear end damage there. Sounds like he might have had some contact. A lot of guys towards the rear of the field have some rear end damage, so perhaps when it all stacked up going into turn 1, some made contact. Thankfully, they made it out the other side, but man, here, when you're shifting through gears, any kind of damage to your nose, you got to watch those temperatures, because that could just as easily blow up your motor.
Certainly could be a difficult spot if all of a sudden you're blowing up while you're trying to do the best you can here around the racetrack. As we've got, it looks like 3 laps are complete in the books. Here from Watkins Glen, Kyle Peddle continues to lead the way as they come up through the S's. And everybody just really spread out.
Yeah, this is the most technical part of the racetrack. You might not think that, but well, you got to clip those curbs just right so you can carry the right amount of throttle, come down the longest straightaway here on the racetrack into the bus stop. It sets up the entire lap for you, those S's. So while they might not seem very treacherous when you're out there racing, you really do have to hit them perfectly, or else you're gonna really mess up your lap. As we got some really good battles back here. There's somebody with some pretty good front end damage. Who is that there?
Derek Fulton, it looks like, in the 7, or the, well, looks like he's got 7 on the side of his race car. That thing he's beat up a lot. He's in the back of the field. He's 28th right now, and I think he's just clinging for dear life because he's gained spots since the green flag, but unfortunately for him, he did lose a spot there on this lap. He was 27th a lap ago, and now here comes Dylan Jones underneath. He's going to turn him! No, goes Fulton in turn 7.
Oh, trouble for Derek Fulton. He already had contact, I believe it was with Patrick Moose, and he managed to keep it going. He's going to finally gather it up, and he is crab walking down this front stretch. It looks like huge damage on all 4 corners of that number 7 Toyota, and that might be it for him. And unless other people have trouble, that's a really tough break for him. He was already in the back, and now just getting worse and worse as the race has transpired.
And in a race with no cautions, you're going to have guys, I mean, the guy behind him, Dylan Jones there, he had to have seen that he had damage. So he's just trying to get his nose in there and make sure that he has an opportunity to get by him before another braking point, because every braking point, you're stuck behind a slower vehicle. You're just costing yourself lap time, especially in a race with no cautions. So that's really unfortunate for Derek there. It's going to be really hard for him to overcome and get a solid finish out of this.
So 5 laps complete here as Peddle comes off turn number 7, and now the strategy ball is already starting to roll. Let's go downstairs. Taylor Burris, what you got for us on when these guys are going to come onto pit road?
Well, first and foremost, right now, the dirty air for a lot of these drivers is starting to affect the handling of these race cars, right, or these trucks as they work their way through this circuit. A lot of drivers are looking at around lap 15 to about lap 22 as that pit window to come down towards pit road. Because if you try to come down a little bit too early, you'll end up running out of tires to utilize later on in the race, but hitting too late could cost you the chance to get any good position later on with those closing laps. So keep in mind of that. With perfect lap time, or lap we should probably see everybody, is 17 to 18, but the pit window should open up around lap 15 in about 10 laps time. So keep an eye on pit road. We'll let you know when the first ones decide to make that run.
It'll be interesting to see when these guys decide to make the choice to come on to pit road. We had an incident with Patrick Moose. He towed it, and I think he's still on pit road. Right when we threw it to Taylor, he had an incident. Gonna try and rewind here. What in the? Oh my!
It was bad.
Yeah.
That thing looks pretty used up, I tell you that much.
It was not good.
He got loose under braking, getting into turn number 6, hit the guardrail, and the guardrail pretty much just grabbed him, and he got up in the air. A wild ride for Patrick Moose. Hope he's okay. Man, oh man, he was having I wouldn't say a great run. He had damage to the race car, but that is such a heartbreak for him. Right now, of course, I'm not sure where he's at in points. He's not in the top 40. That's as much as I know.
Yeah, this is definitely the kind of racetrack, and he's disconnected, so that's going to be it for him tonight. This is the kind of racetrack that can bite with the amount of speed that you're carrying. And like you said before the race started, Kevin, with those barriers, you just never know if you hit it in the right spot, if it's going to grab that nose. And that is very unfortunate. Well, start, middle, and end to Patrick Moose's night. Man, he didn't really have it going for him at all tonight, and I'm not really sure it was much of his fault.
And we talked about it. There's a lot more grass on this version of Watkins Glen than what they run now. And I'm not sure if there's still grass there, but all it takes is a little bit of off track, and you get so loose. There's just no grip on the green. And we saw, well, at least we did. I don't know if we're going to show it. I don't want to burden Zach with that, but it was a brutal incident to say the least, for sure. And as of right now, things kind of settling out, and like Taylor said, a lot of gaps between these trucks, and it's unfortunate for these guys. They're trying to do everything they can to get the guy in front of them.
Yeah, I tell you, it looks like the top 6 of Petal, Alt, Minter, Lopez, Mercurio, LaPrade, they're within 3 seconds of each other, keeping each other honest. Retzlaff and Diallo, I mean, they're still in the picture inside 5 seconds, but when you drop back to maybe 11th, 12th, 13th, you're already looking at guys who aren't going to have much of a chance to reel those guys in. 7 seconds is a lot to make up with not a lot of time to do it. So these top 7 or 8, you're looking at the guys who are more than likely going to battle for this win.
Depending on strategy and how many oopsies these drivers pull out on the racetrack, that'll really determine it here. As well, let's see. You've clicked off a couple more. 7 laps are complete as the field comes around to the front straightaway, and we'll take a side by side. We'll go to a break. And when we come back, we'll keep things rolling. We'll probably see the first green flag pit stops. Of course, that's the only thing we'll get here. We'll see maybe our only green flag stops of the day. Kyle Petal continues to lead here from Watkins Glen. We're back right after this. Welcome back to the second round of the eNASCAR World Pro Qualifying iRacing Series, the third race on the season of 7. We're almost halfway through the season already. Kyle Petal continues to lead the way. He's got a 0.6 of a second lead over Dylan Alt, who's in second, and a little over a second back to Tucker Minter in third. Taylor Burris has a point for us down on pit road. We'll go back downstairs to Taylor.
One of the things that I've been noticing with some of these drivers, especially on their onboards, is the choice of steering wheels that they decide to use. We noticed that a lot in the Coke race, how some of the drivers, such as we saw with Graham Bolin and Mitchell DeYoung and Bobby Zelensky, utilizing a formula wheel. Well, in this race that we see right here, drivers such as Michael Cozy Jr. are utilizing that same choice of strategy compared to others such as Briar LaPrade, who decided to use the oval style wheel. Now, some drivers might also be utilizing different ways of how they're utilizing the shifting points, such as using an H-pattern gear shifter, while others prefer to use the sequential shifters, which actually is in good preparation for when next year with the Gen 7 cars.
You're certainly right about that. Cozy sits, since you mentioned him, in the 13th spot right now. I wouldn't say he loves road courses, but of course, last time I said that, the race that I watched, he won the thing, and we didn't think he was going to. So it's kind of a mixed bag out of the 99.
Michael's always a guy you got to look out for no matter what. I mean, from winning the Firecracker, I mean, he's always a guy who will do 110%, put 110% into what he's doing. And really, really, he'll be in the picture. Doesn't matter what it is. He'll find his way into the picture. Racing against Michael, he's one of the fiercest competitors on the simulator. So I'm definitely not counting him out here as this race goes on.
Garrison Hogan just took it all the way out almost at the tire barrier in turn 1. He used up all that pavement and got it loose coming down the front straightaway under brake and did a great job of saving it and not hitting anything. Cost him a couple of spots. He's back in the 27th position right now. Fastest lap of the race thus far. It is Dylan Alt, I think, with a minute 12:06:22. Yeah, that is the fastest lap thus far. Currently, the fastest lap on the racetrack, though, is in recent times, belongs to the 9 of Briar LaPrade, who won 2 weeks ago at Homestead, in the top split in that 35 track.
And I was mentioning earlier there, Jacob, some of these guys do have long run speed versus that one lap, hot lap speed. And we're starting to see that from Breyer, about 0.3 of a second faster than our top three. And these guys are pretty much under a blanket when it comes to road course racing, about 3 seconds separating our top half dozen. And then behind them, you go about maybe a second and a half between each driver. So these top six, this is pretty much who we got for the battle for the win. And right now, Dylan Alt is hunting down that Kyle Petty lime green, lime yellow, number 21. He's looking for the lead here shortly.
Well, Petty was out in front by a pretty good bit, so he must have had a slip up because Dylan Alt has really closed in the gap. We are getting close to that magic number for pit stop, so maybe that's part of the strategy here. Petty kind of backing off a bit, so that way he can really fly on his in lap and make up the most time that he can. We'll just have to wait and see as the field comes around to complete lap number 12. Got an ad read here for you. The Marconi Setup Shop is your home for iRacing setups and the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports. From legends to cup cars, we have you covered with dirt setups available for late models, modifieds, and wing sprints and road setups for F3, LMP2, and GT4 cars as well. Coaching with professional drivers such as eNASCAR, Coca-Cola, iRacing Series champion Zach Novak, his teammate Jimmy Mullis, River Hayes, and more are available at www.MaconiSetupShop.com/coaching for just $25 per hour. At Marconi Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories. Their newest book, How I Drive, featuring a foreword by Anthony Alfredo, is now available. Come learn from the pros how to be the best driver you can be. Visit MaconiSetupShop.com for more information. Dylan Alt still charging hard. The gap's about 0.2 of a second as Breyer LaPrade is coming onto pit road in the meantime. Our first taker for green flag pit stops. It's the 35.
Boy, I tell you, I'm surprised at that one. It's a little earlier than I would have expected, but Breyer certainly no slouch in this road to pro, so he knows exactly what he's thinking here. Is a perfect entry into his box there.
Got a couple more on pit road as well. Let's go down to Taylor Burris.
Yeah, watching right here on pit road with Breyer LaPrade as he comes down pit road. A couple of other drivers, Daniel Eberhardt, Nate Stewart, and Dylan Jones also coming down pit road as Dylan Jones comes off. Here comes Breyer LaPrade after a 4-tire and fuel change. He now rejoins the
battle for the lead.
Yeah, here comes Alt. He almost turned Kyle Petty getting into turn number 5, and Dylan Alt takes the lead on the exit of the carousel. What a move. There was definitely contact between the top two.
And we saw something very similar to that during the Coke Series race where DeYoung got into the back of Graham Bolin on the final lap, and Dylan Alt executed that move perfectly. Give Dylan Alt the lead, and a commanding one at that already has about a 5 truck length lead. And I believe Kyle Petty is pitting. He is pitting. Yep. Here he comes in the number 21.
The cavalry. Minter is in. Jordy Lopez Jr. is in. Caden Honeycutt's coming in. Brotherton is in. Looks like some more might be coming as well. Kenny Brady's making the entrance to pit road. Same with Connor Horn. So about 50-50 split this time around on those that are coming in and those that aren't.
Boy, I tell you, Dylan Alt has got to be thinking pit road this next lap, given that 6-truck contingent that you'd spoken about, Kevin. These guys, they're all really tied together, especially with Breyer having already come in, and a lot of these other guys. Looks like Mercurio has stayed out as well, part of that group. But maybe these guys are going to try and play the long game, and they feel like they have a truck that can. Alt has certainly proven that he can race his way through the field.
Alt just driving it around now, coming off of the carousel. It's Mercurio, Retzlaff, and Diallo, and Frisch. That's your top 5. Kyle Petty did not have a good stop, and we got trouble in the S's. Tucker Minter goes around. He hangs onto the car. He all F4s it, actually, and Kyle Petty's going to need a new pair of underwear because he just soiled himself in turn 4. My goodness.
And, you know, we talked about it lap 1 during the S's. We mentioned it, just how loose these guys can get, and Tucker Minter unfortunately met it here on lap 15. Had a great pit stop, basically jumped and leapfrogged a couple trucks there. Just got loose at the very top end of the S's, and he all F4 right in front of Petty and Breyer LaPrade. Those guys were probably scared to death of what they saw as Dylan Alt is pitting. So a lot of things happening right now.
Boy, I tell you, that is.
Oh, here's the replay.
Yeah.
Oh, he got the wall,
Oh my
too.
goodness.
Oh my!
Oh, and LaPrade too, right on top of pedal.
Yep.
My goodness. And I give it to Tucker. I mean, he had a really fast truck tonight, but he showed a lot of class right there. You know, not taking anybody with him. I think that's a real gentleman move, especially on this kind of a stage.
So Dylan Alt comes out on top. How about Jordy Lopez Jr. in the 44? He's already made his pit stop. He is going to round out here in second, and he's running the back door of the Ford.
This is his opportunity. He has the heat in the tires. Alt's still trying to deal with the cold tires through the chicane. Here comes Jordy Lopez in that VRS Logitech Gialtis number 30, and he is hunting him down. And this is when he's got to do it, because right now, if he lets him stay in front, Alt has the tires, and he will have the long run speed as we saw in that first run.
And Jordy's not a guy who's going to be afraid to make the same move that Alt did on pedal earlier. So if Jordy needs to use the bumper to get ahead, I know that he will do what he needs to do to get where he needs to go.
Jordy Lopez Jr. right now 8th in points, going to try the outside, now tries the inside here on the corner exit, washes up a little bit, can't quite get there. A couple more trucks on pit road. Cozy, Retzlaff, Mercurio, Ryan Hill, Corey Carpenter, they're all on pit road. Omar Diallo stays out, as well as DeMerchant, Phillip, and Hogan back off of one.
Man, it did look like Jordy hit that curve there coming out of 7, and that's got to be one of the worst curves you can hit on this racetrack, because you have to suffer the consequences the entire way down the front straightaway, and you just get to watch the guy in front of you drive away.
Almost, all but at halfway in this one. It'll kind of be in the next lap and a half that we'll get to the halfway point. Alt a little sideways there through the chicane. He hangs on to it. But Jordy Lopez Jr. not giving up.
Leader at the moment, Omar Diallo coming in. Seth DeMerchant also decided to stay out a little bit. He is now pitting. As of right now, Brian Mercurio will be our leader, and I believe he has also decided to stay out. And he was up front. He was in that top 6 or so. So he might be running this race backwards per se compared to the rest of our leaders as he goes through the final corner. And he's going to continue to stay out as he finishes lap 17. 3 significant strategies right now. Some of these guys pit on lap 12. Some of these guys pitting right at halfway. And we may some of these guys pit around lap 24 to 25. Going to be interesting to see which one pans out the best.
And I tell you, especially how early those guys did decide to come in, there's definitely an opportunity if somebody does decide to stay out to get a massive tire advantage. It just comes down to whether they have enough time once they do come in to reel them back in.
So Garrison Hogan leads the way, but a second and a half back are Alt and Lopez, who have already pitted. Hogan pretty much on Gilligan's Island right now, one of the few that have not pitted. Also that haven't pitted, Frank DeAngelis, Michael Guerrilla. As, well, right now, kind of a hurry up and wait, as we'll see when Hogan decides to pull it off on the pit road. It might be this time. The gap's under a second between first and second. Here they come through turn number 6. And now headed towards 7. We'll see if Hogan decides to crank it down in. And he will. So with this, we're at the halfway point. It's time to bring you the iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing. iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in Australian supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. Dylan Alt leads the way after the contact that he made with Kyle Peddle. Before the green flag stops, he holds on to the lead. Jordy Lopez Jr. in second, half a second back. Then it's Brian LaPrade, Brian Mercurio, Kyle Peddle, Caden Honeycutt, Parker Retzlaff, Omar Diallo, Michael Frisch, and Liam Brotherton round out the top 10. And
11th as of right now is Seth DeMerchant. His teammate Michael Cozy Jr. rounding out the top dozen in 12th. Kenny Brady will be in 13th right now. Seeking pressure is that number 8, Nicholas Shelton Machine. He's in 14th. Connor Horn in 15th. By run for Agnil Philippe. He's in 16th. Nate Stewart, really expected him to do well this week. He's a road course ringer, at least in his own eyes, and I've seen him do really well. He's currently up 5 spots. He's in 17th. Frank DeAngelis didn't get a lap time in under Q. He's in 18th. And Tanner Love and Garrison Hogan, he just pitted. So I believe it's going to give let's see. Dylan C. Jones is in 20th.
Yeah, that means in 21st you'll get Ryan Hill, then Jeremy B. Davis. Let's see where exactly Garrison's going to settle out. Looks like right behind Jeremy there in 24th. Yep. Then Christian Peterson there, Chris Overland, Seth Noel, Michael Griglia, who had that wreck earlier. Daniel Everhart, Corey Carpenter, Derek Fulton, and then Tucker Minter and Patrick Moose, who are out of this race.
This concludes tonight's iRacing Midway race break. With over 170,000 drivers on the service and over 90 laser scan traction cars to choose from, iRacing is your portal to the racing world. Get on track today at iRacing.com. Trouble, there goes somebody wide. Not quite sure.
Welcome back to the wild world of Derek Fulton, ladies and gentlemen. He has been all over the place tonight, and a lot of it not of his doing. It's just this track can chew you up and spit you out if it is not your day, and man, I hate it for Derek. He's a really strong competitor, just not having the night he's looking for.
Certainly struggling. He's going to bring it to pit road this time. Just an update with the points here before we go to break. Dylan Alt, 38th in points. If he were to win this thing, that would really help him out in his case to make the top 20 and move on. He's got to make it consistent over the next 3 races after tonight. But looking good for the driver of the 42 thus far. Just past halfway, 15 laps to go from Watkins Glen. You won't miss a thing. We're going side by side. We're back right after this.
You can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that Makoni Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, Five Flag Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at Makoni Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, Makoni Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to MakoniSetupShop.com and learn why Makoni Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing.
And remember, at Makoni Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Yeah, I'm listening to Breyer's under.
We welcome you back here to Watkins Glen International in race number 3 of round 2 of the eNASCAR Autopro Qualifying iRacing Series. Jacob Pitts, Kevin McAdams, Nick Olson with you, Taylor Burris on pit road, Zach Johnson, our producer, Eric Messer, our social media guru for tonight. As always, Dylan Alt continues to lead the way, and he's got about a second gap over George Lopez Jr., but we were talking right before we came back. Keep our eyes peeled on the 41 of Brian Mercurio. He may be in the catbird seat with the freshest tires out of anybody in the top 5.
Yeah, Jacob, and he pitted the latest out of all of our leaders, and right now he is either mirroring or beating our leaders' lap times. Last time by a 9.55 to a 1:13.029 from that number 2 of Brian Mercurio, number 41 on our screen, but he has got the good pace as well as Briar Lapad. Briar Lapad also waiting for these tires to get a little bit older. We saw that last run. He is about a second behind Brian Mercurio. He had great race pace later on in that run, so I anticipate these guys, about the top 4 separated by about 3.5 seconds. I anticipate a very good finish at the end of this one.
Yeah, and definitely Dylan Alt showed that he had that long run speed as well, and pitting after most of these guys, he has the opportunity to stretch it out, but Mercurio definitely with the freshest tires. Briar with the oldest tires out of the group is maintaining much better than I would have expected. He's definitely got a fast long run truck. Given how short this race is, I wouldn't doubt these guys did full race simulations to see when the best lap to pit would be with lap times and everything based on their setups, and these guys have got it fine-tuned.
Well, we've got a moment Tune in Wednesday night, August 18th at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time for the Wolf Pumps Truck Series Championship night as 8 drivers square off to go for one prize. Viewers will also have a chance to win die-cast giveaways, gift cards, and a whole lot more. Also starting on August 31st, look for the new Xfinity Series, all on twitch.tv/VolsFan88, VOLS Fan 88. Looking around the racetrack, how about the battle for, well, 10th is looking pretty good. Liam Brotherton, Seth DeMerchant back here.
Yeah, DeMerchant, he's been slowly but surely catching that number 10 Club Jerky Toyota and giving him the pressure. Just a few laps before, Michael Frisch was 10th, got around that Liam Brotherton truck. And now DeMerchant and Cozy both closing in. And you see that VRS logo getting closer and closer through the carousel. And this is a great passing opportunity here, Nick. As they go through the carousel, you get that long straightaway into that left-hander. And I think we're going to see a pass here very shortly.
Yeah, the carousel is definitely one of the most important places on this racetrack to set up a pass. How you can arc that corner, how you can enter that corner, whether it's high, low, it doesn't really matter. There's so many different ways to get around it, but whatever allows you to get back to the throttle the quickest will get you that run. And it doesn't look like Merch can do it this time, but Liam is definitely falling into the clutches of the VRS boys.
Derek Fulton is nearly wrecking again. He almost just wrecked Jeremy B. Davis. He is not having a good race.
And you see Merch kind of pop out there going into turn one, and that's preventative. A lot of guys have different braking points, so you swing your nose out there just in case Liam decides to hit those brakes a little bit earlier than Merch is expecting. They just avoid an accident for sure.
Seth DeMerchant having fun. Derek Fulton wants to get the hell out of New York State, is what I've learned here in these last couple of laps. DeMerchant looks to the inside, thinks better of it. As they come through the chicane, Brian Mercurio has got the gap between himself and Jordi Lopez Jr. down under a second, but he's 2 seconds back on the leader of Alt. So Alt faster than everybody right now in the top 3.
Yeah, and goes to show just why he's up there in the lead. Dylan Alt putting on a fantastic race, someone I've raced with over the last couple of years. He's almost like a Michael Cozy. He's just good everywhere, and he's showcasing his talents right now as we complete lap 25, 10 laps to go, and it looks like a couple guys starting to fall off. Brian Mercurio down a little bit on speed compared to Dylan Alt last time. Actually, last time he was a little bit faster. Briar LaPrade starting to feel those older tires. And I believe he's starting to maybe regret that early pit stop as these top 3 are starting to slowly but surely pull away from him.
Absolutely, and we talked about that course 6 earlier, and with Minter now out of the race, that turned into 5, and out of the rest of them, it appears that Caden Honeycutt has surfaced in P6. Just watched Caden. I mean, obviously, very talented race car driver. Watched him race in Hickory this past weekend.
That'll be drivers too.
Oh, no kidding. Watched him wheel to a top 10, and he's running in the top 10 again here tonight with Parker Retzlaff, another real driver there in the ARCA series whenever he gets an opportunity. So a lot of these guys are finally starting to work their way up through the field. It took the strategy, and these guys are finally starting to position themselves here for this home stretch.
Taylor, what you got?
Looking through the field right now, one of the top drivers inside the top 5, Briar LaPrade, has been running very consistent races here, and in fact running consistently some of the faster lap times, as we talked about how he's doing later in the run. His goal is to try to set his sights on Jordi Lopez, who he feels like that's the one target he's going to set for this race unless some other circumstances arise. Watching his onboard right now, he's running very consistent with his lap times and continually staying and running fastest lap times.
Just a note, Frank DeAngelis, the last truck.
Oh, we got trouble out of the inner loop.
That's going to send everybody down to the grass. That's Eberhardt that's around coming out of the inner loop. The leaders had to take evasive action through the grass. This was right in front of them. Eberhardt gets it rolling. Nobody else piles in, but a scary moment for the top couple of guys. That's going to split up Lopez and Mercurio, though. That gap is now back up to a second.
And that hurt Mercurio the worst out of everybody. He had a little bit of a blind spot because he was right behind Jordi Lopez. Just got a little spooked there out of the chicane, and he's going to have to make up that time. Probably lost about a half a second or so because of that incident. Now he's going to have to crawl his way back. Was 1.68 seconds behind our leader of Dylan Alt. He has now fallen back to 2.3 seconds behind our leader. So we saw him consistently be the fastest guy in this top 3, and now he's going to have another hill to climb to get around. Now he's going to have to worry about the lap truck and DeAngelis as well.
Oh man, about the worst place for Mercurio you'd want a truck, especially on cold tires, to merge. He's going to be begging Frank to move over as quickly as possible, which it looks like he's going to do. Oh my goodness, it went from bad to worse to even worse for Brian. And the funny thing is, I still think he's got the speed to come and win this race. He's just got to run absolutely flawless and make quick work of Jordi Lopez as quickly as possible.
We're inside 10 laps to go. Our last break to get us to the checkered flag. Dylan Alt leads the way. It's Jordi Lopez Jr. and Brian Mercurio trying to chase him down. We're back after this.
You can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that Makoni Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, Five Flag Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at Makoni Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, Makoni Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to MakoniSetupShop.com and learn why Makoni Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing.
And remember, at Makoni Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Welcome back to Watkins Glen. We're going to take you all the way to the checkered flag. 6 laps to go. We got a nice battle brewing back here with Michael Frisch, Liam Brotherton, Seth DeMerchant, Michael Cozy Jr., and they're all held up by that baby blue car with orange on it. Daniel Eberhardt, remember, he spawned right in front of the leaders, and now he's right in front of this line of cars.
And Frisch is trying to make quick work of Eberhardt, and he just tries to get out of the way right in the middle of the chicane. This is going to hurt Brotherton and company. DeMerchant also behind. DeMerchant trying to capitalize on the mistake of DeMerchant. He makes a mistake, and now Cozy gets in the mix. We were going to talk about the potential battle for 9th, but now we're going to have a really good battle for 10th as they exit the carousel.
Boy, and Liam and the 2 VRS boys, they are begging Daniel Eberhardt to move, and it looks like he might just do that right now. Now Nick Shelton's going to have to deal with him back there as he's rapidly closing in on this group. But man, these guys, Liam did not lose that much time to Michael P. Frisch. And this is going to be a really tight battle here.
I think it's going to be the thing to watch the rest of the way here, because we're certainly not getting it up at the front of the field. Alt leads by 1.25 seconds. Mercurio 3 seconds back on the lead. Briar LaPrade 4.5 back on the lead. Then there's Kyle Peddle stuck by his lonesome in the 5th spot. Remember, he led early on as these guys come up the hill to turn 3.
And the only thing I can foresee that may make this battle for the lead interesting, Corey Carpenter about 3 seconds ahead of our leader, and he is matching pace for the most part, maybe about 2 or 3 tenths slower than Dylan Alt. So he may start to give that number 42 of Dylan a little bit of dirty air, and that's going to allow Jordi to potentially close in. Last time by 2, Jordi was about 0.2 of a second quicker, and even quicker then was Mercurio. He was 4 seconds back because of the mistakes and the dealing with lap traffic in DeAngelis. He has now closed it back to 2.87 seconds. So the battle for lead not quite over yet, as we got 4 laps to go this time.
Man, I tell you, you've got to feel for Brian Mercurio. He had it down to under 2 seconds, and then just a couple of really fluke deals, and guys just in his way in the wrong spot. How about that? And man, this is it looks like everything stabilized that last time by, but have to hate that for Brian Mercurio, who had to have felt he had a shot at that win there. Now it looks like he's just trying to protect third.
Yeah, now that we're down to almost 3.5 laps to go, it doesn't look great for those at the front. Let's talk about our friends Martin Sports here before we wrap this up. Founded by Scott Martin nearly 10 years ago in the frozen region of Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Martin Sports strives for the best custom apparel for your needs. Whether you need shirts for your office, jerseys for a local sports team, or specially designed apparel for your sim racing group, Martin Sports has got you covered. Along with shirts and other team wear, they also offer gloves specially crafted for sim racing that are lightweight, breathable, and complete with padded leather palms. If you want to learn more, find them online at martinsports906.com or on Facebook at facebook.com/martinsports.
Looks like they're maneuvering that lap traffic there.
Good call by Corey, and just talked about it. These lap cars, some of them are playing nice, sometimes they're not, and thankfully Corey Carpenter, very, very long time racer on the sim racing world. I've raced him for 10 plus years. He knows what he's doing out there. Finally made his way through Road to Pro, and he's trying to just do his best. Currently 26th in that number 23 Chevrolet, just trying to get around here, looking to have a clean race.
Man, and this stuff, I cannot stress enough how hard these stock cars are to drive, not whether the truck, the B car, the cup car, around these road courses. You can drive those road cars all you want and they stick like glue, but these trucks, they are hard to drive, and any little wheel drop, you're going to be in big trouble. So I really do give a round of applause to all of these guys as we're coming to 2 to go for getting through here relatively clean. Only a few cars damaged or out of this race with any kind of catastrophic problems. Just really a round of applause. Really talented group of drivers.
Popsicle sticks here at start finish for Dylan Alt. Jordan Lopez Jr.'s got it down to a 2nd and a 10th, and he wants Corey Carpenter out of the way so he can try and square off here on Dylan Alt. I don't think he's close enough to have a shot at it here, but Lopez wants that 30 truck out of here.
Last time by, he was a little bit faster than Dylan Alt, but I think it's going to be too little, too late. Tried to do the undercut, and it ended up putting him in that 2nd position. So give the guys at the Gialtis, get those crew chiefs a raise, because they got him up a few spots because of that. He's currently solidly in the 2nd position. But like you said, Corey Carpenter right in front of him. Let's see if he goes on the outside of the carousel. He does not, and that's probably going to frustrate that number 44 truck.
You gotta wonder if maybe that's just something from the past or something that might be materializing, just making sure that certain people win races. It's all a points battle at the end of the day. If you want certain guys to win these races, guys who are solidly in the top 20, maybe you don't battle them as hard as guys who are on the bubble and need to end up racing their way in.
White flag. Dylan Alt. 2.5 miles from home, Jordan Lopez Jr. going at it with Corey Carpenter over the radio. As Lopez actually has lost time now. It's down to 1.3 seconds between those top two. As it looks like Alt pretty much has this thing locked up unless he puts it in the wall. Honeycutt and Diallo for 7th. They've got a good battle going on.
Contacted turn 1. Diallo is charged on those on those newer tires. Honeycutt trying to conserve as much ground as he can, trying to maintain in that 7th place position. And right now he's got to worry about that dead zone number 23 hounding him as they go into the chicane for the final time.
Man, and this is going to be the hardest he'll drive into the chicane all day long. Here he comes. Looks like, oh wow, that's probably a 1X, but that's okay. It's the last lap. You got to drive really hard into that into the carousel here, trying to get as close as you can, get back to the throttle quickly. Looks like we're heading towards home here.
Dylan Alt's going to come around out of turn number 7. Here he comes. Dylan Alt's going to pick up his first win on the season. Give him a shot at making the top 20 in the Contender Series. Dylan Alt wins at Watkins Glen. How about this battle for 7th? Let's go back. Omar Diallo won't get there. 2 truck length lead coming off turn 4 for Honeycutt. He will hang on. And this pack back here, DeMerchant tried to get by Brotherton. Can't do it coming to the line. They'll all stay where they're at as everybody else heads towards start-finish line to wrap this thing up. No cautions since we had cautions turned off anyway. But for Dylan Alt, race win. Pretty good run for the driver of the 42 after he was able to get Kyle Petto out of the lead.
And like you mentioned, Dylan was pretty far back, at least, through the top 40. He was 38th in points, and that will definitely move him up the ladder. We very well may see him approach the top 10. So great race for Dylan. He, I'm sure, had this marked on his calendar. Great road racer from the Lowline Racing 42. And he did a fantastic job. We talked about it briefly. Got to minimize the mistakes. He made none. Pitted later than everybody. Didn't allow anyone to do the undercut on him. And he ended up just pulling away there at the end.
Well, we'll let Alt do his burnout, and we'll catch up with the winner and the rest of the top 3. Dylan Alt, your winner here at Watkins Glen. We'll step aside. We're back right after this.
You can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that Makoni Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairground Speedway, Five Flag Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at Makoni Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, Makoni Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to MakoniSetupShop.com and learn why Makoni Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing.
And remember, at Makoni Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
There you see Dylan Alt doing his celebration here on the front straightaway with his teammates here at Watkins Glen. A fantastic race for Dylan Alt, who puts himself back in conversation to move on to the Contender Series with a top 20 in points. He's got to keep the consistency up for the next 4 races. But for right now, all is looking up right now for Dylan Alt. Let's run through our unofficial results for tonight's race. Dylan Alt with the win for Lone Line Racing. Jordy Lopez Jr. finishes in second. Brian Mercurio in third. Briar LaPrade finishes fourth. Kyle Peddle finishes fifth. Parker Retzlaff finishes sixth. Caden Honeycutt finishes seventh. Omar Diallo in eighth. Michael P. Frisch in ninth. And Liam Brotherton rounds out the top 10.
Teammates roll off the 11th. Seth the Merchant hounded Brotherton for laps upon laps. He will finish in 11th. Michael Cozy Jr. will finish in 12th. Nick Shelton will finish in 13th. Kenny Brady started 14th, finishes 14th in the number 5. Agnel Philippe rolled off 10th, will finish in 15th. Connor Horn, very quiet night, will finish a clean truck in 16th. Nate Stewart, 17th. Dylan C. Jones finishes in 18th. Ryan A. Hill, 19th. And another quiet run for Garrison Hogan. Led some laps. He will finish in 20th.
Running through the rest of the field here, we got Jeremy B. Davis coming home in 21st, Chris Overland 22nd, Christian Peterson, the third of the VRS boys, in 23rd, Tanner Love in 24th, Seth Knoll 25th, Corey Carpenter, who we saw get into it with Jordy Lopez there late, first truck a lap down in 26th place. Frank DeAngelis 27th, Daniel Eberhard, who had that wild ride in the inner loop right in front of the leaders, coming home 28th. Michael Griglia, we saw wreck early in the race, 29th. Derek Fulton, P30, after an adventurous evening to say the least. Tucker Minter and Patrick Moose are two DNFs, 31st and 32nd.
That rounds out the field of 32 for tonight. We never did figure out who those 5 were that didn't start tonight, didn't make the entry list. I guess we'll figure that out after the words. But nonetheless, let's talk to our race winner, Dylan Alt, who put on a great performance here tonight. And I tell you what, you had that contact with Peddle there right before it came in for green flag stops. And that pretty much sealed the deal. Peddle had a rough pit stop. You were on the gas right out of the gate, and you never looked back. Take us through your night.
Yeah, I know I needed a very good qual lap for starting up the front and avoid dirty air. And unfortunately, I got a very good second place, starting spot, but I still was behind dirty air. So any opportunity I had of getting close to Pedal and making a move, I had to give him the bumper and the carousel, because I knew he made a mistake in the bus stop, and I took it from there. I'm glad he understood what I was going through, and sorry, I can't think right now, but I was trying to be as consistent as possible and try to just never make a mistake, and yeah.
Now let's look forward now to the next race in 2 weeks. We go to Rockingham, somewhere that you don't get to run very often. In fact, out of anything, the trucks are probably the most frequent thing that would go there, just since that's the most recent NASCAR event to be at the racetrack. A lot different than here in Watkins Glen. How do you think you're going to square out in 2 weeks? Of course, there's a lot of time to practice and everything, but just on the surface, how do you think it's going to play out?
I just need to, since I already used my drop week, having a bad luck race in Knoxville, I just have to be very consistent. I have to stay up here and just get good qualifying, and because every week that I've had good qualifying starting positions, I've finished well, or it would be my fault making a mistake in pit road. But yeah, I don't really know Rockingham too well, so I have to spend as long as all the laps that I've done at Watkins Glen, just put that onto Rockingham. So yeah, hopefully we get a good finish there.
Well, congratulations on the win, and we will see you in 2 weeks down at the Rock. Congratulations once again.
Thank you.
Race winner, Dylan Alt, here from Watkins Glen. Nick Olson standing by with third place finisher, Brian Mercurio.
Hey, Brian Mercurio. Nice P3 tonight. How you feeling about it?
Man, I feel like I should be more excited about a P3. Really felt like I had some good pace. Thought I might have had a chance for a win there late, but really can never complain about a podium finish in a race like this.
Yeah, no kidding. It definitely looked like you had the speed there closing in. Tell me what's going through your mind there when Frank is coming off of pit road there, and you realize, yeah, he's not going to let me go.
It's one of those things, hate that it happened, can't change it, but you'd hope in a situation like that, guys would be a little more aware. We have the relative box, we have a lot of tools that you can kind of be aware of where guys are, especially in a case like that. He just happened to come out in front of the leaders, and unfortunately hurt me the most. So I think I could have gained a lot of time. Maybe could have had something for the front too, but having to avoid the spin that Eberhard had coming out of the bus stop, and I lost too much time. Gained a little bit of it back, but it's too little, too late.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, what was your visual there? Riding behind Jordy and going into that bus stop, and all of a sudden there's a truck there, so you got to take evasive maneuvers.
Yeah, I saw there was smoke up ahead, and I spotted crew chief Kai Riley. He was like, "All right, got to spin ahead." Curious to see what Dylan was going to do, and he just I don't know if he said anything to you guys, but he basically told me he just ran like nothing was there. So he was going to run his line regardless. And then I saw Jordy have to dip his right sides over into the grass. So I didn't know how close he was. So I played it completely safe, dipped all four into the grass. And unfortunately, when you do that, it gives you a slowdown, and had to cough up about half a second there. So like I said, combine that with having to get stuck behind Frank there. That's be a second or so, and finished only about 2 seconds and change behind Dylan. So maybe things could have been different, but like I said, can't really complain about third.
Yeah, no doubt. Last thing I got for you here, we got Rockingham here in 2 weeks. Just tell me your thoughts going into that one, because that's a place we don't see very often.
I don't even know why, but Rockingham has treated me very well. I feel like I get really good results there. Rockingham last year in Road to Pro was my first race as a member of Lowline Racing, so that was all the way back in March of last year. It feels like it's been a long while. So finished really well there in second split. So obviously we have the snake split system here for round 2. So looking forward to it. I always run really good at Rockingham. It's going to be a little bit different than last time. Now we got dirty air and slightly different tire model, so it's not going to play out exactly the same, but Rockingham treats me well. So to have momentum coming out of Watkins Glen like this, getting a P3, really looking forward to Rockingham.
Yeah, for sure, man. And great run tonight. Let's bring that competitive energy into fantasy football this year, huh?
Absolutely, yeah. You were something else last year, dude. So I'll have to do a little bit of homework this time.
All right, thanks, man. Great run.
Thank you.
Third place finisher Brian Mercurio. The Retro 500 is Podium Esports tribute to the Winston Cup era of stock car racing, utilizing iRacing's 1987 Chevy Monte Carlo and Ford Thunderbird. How about Thunderbird at Darlington Raceway? Drivers will compete in qualifier races throughout August in order to earn their place in the 367-lap 500-mile feature race on the evening of Labor Day. The winner will earn $500 in prize money and the bragging rights that come with victory in one of virtual stock car racing's ultimate tests of skill. First qualifying race, of course, was yesterday. Next one coming up 6 days from now. For more information, visit podiumesports.com/retro500. Let's take a look at what's coming up here as well on Podium Esports. Get this on out of the way. The SimMax Cup Series powered by MPI from Kansas Speedway. That comes August 8th, this Sunday at 9:15 p.m. Eastern, featuring guest driver Ryan Vargas on the Podium Esports Twitch. Then on Monday night, it's the Monday Night Racing Playoffs, the Porsche 911 RSRs from the Homestead Roval. That's Monday, August 9th, 7:45 p.m. Eastern start time on the Podium 2 Twitch, the Podium Facebook, and on Twitter. Operation E Motorsport from Laguna Seca on Tuesday, August 10th at 8 o'clock Eastern. On the Operation Motorsport YouTube, the Podium the Podium Retro 500 qualifying race number 2 with the 1987 cars at Darlington. That's on Wednesday, August 11th, 9 o'clock Eastern on the Podium Esports Twitch. You can sign up now again on podiumesports.com/retro500, or if you're in chat, use the exclamation point retro500 command. Then, in 2 weeks, yes, 2 weeks, the eNASCAR and Coca-Cola iRacing Series returns from Michigan Speedway. That's Tuesday, August 17th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern on the iRacing Twitch and on YouTube and Facebook. And then 2 weeks from tonight, the eNASCAR Roto Pro Qualifying iRacing Series from Rockingham on, Thursday, August 19th. What? Okay, well, we didn't proofread that note. August 19th, how about? 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern on the Podium Esports Twitch and on Podium 2, where you can find us. A wild race here tonight, guys. Final thoughts here before we send us on our way.
Well, I'll tell you this much. We're going to Rockingham next week, but tonight, this was probably the last wild card of the week, or of the season. Gosh, I'm having as many flubs as Jacob. But I think we saw what we expected. You know, we had a few guys who were very fast and a few guys that, you know, were going to command the field. And we saw that it basically took someone that had the pace and had no mistakes. And we saw Kyle Peddle have a few mistakes there due to a bad pit stop and, you know, being involved with Tucker Minter there. And Dylan Alt managed to not only stay out later than everybody, but end up having the pace after pitting and stayed in the lead. But, you know, we're going to Rockingham next week. Me and Sean will be back here, and that's like our home away from home. So we'll love that one. We'll love calling that race. It'll be a good one.
Yeah, it's been great hanging out with you guys here this week. Pinch hitting a little bit, but Rockingham, boy, that's going to be a doozy. But as for Watkins Glen, just put a period on this. It's about what we thought. Not as much wrecking as I thought we would see. First lap was relatively clean. I don't think anybody really got together with anybody too severely enough. A lot of solo stuff, but for the most part, a lot of clean racing, hard racing. Really fun to watch, and I mean the move of the race has got to be Dylan Alt sticking it to Kyle Peddle there in the carousel. For the pit stops, that proved to be the move that won him the race. So definitely exciting stuff here as the season's already starting to wind down.
We're already halfway through by the end of the next race at Rockingham, a 7-race schedule, race number 4 in 2 weeks. And I tell you what, Rockingham is going to be so much fun. I cannot wait for that to come by. It's been a lot of fun here at Watkins Glen as well, and we want to thank you so much for watching. For James Pike, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, John Theodore, Cisco Scaramuza, I'll get it right eventually, like I always say. For Podium Esports, our producer, Zach Johnson, and my colleagues here, Nick Olson, Kevin McAdams, and Taylor Burris. I'm Jacob Hitz, the voice of Podium 2. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of the eNASCAR Roto Pro Qualifying iRacing Series, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks from Thunder Alley. Thanks for being here. We'll see you then. Good night.